The Sweat Collective.
Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter.
If you're going to get a new result, you're going to have to get new action.
You got to get out there and be like, oh, this hurts. This hurts real fucking bad. I'm saying start to learn the mind is powerful. It's powerful, man.
So, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you just kind of told us where you are, but how's everything been going for you during this time?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I'm all right. I think I'm in a relatively good situation compared to many other people, right? Like I don't have kids, so I don't have to homeschool any kids, and my family, everyone's healthy so far. So, fortunately, I'm doing pretty well, man. Thank you. How are you?
That's great.
I'm good. Yeah, same way. Staying busy. I still have like a day job that I do during the day. So luckily I still have a paycheck coming in and not too worried about that. So that's kind of like, really good. So yeah, staying safe. Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to start off. I know before my friend gets mad at me, my boy Sid wants to just give you a shout out. He loves your stuff. And he just says calorie deficit with exclamation point.
That's awesome. What's up, Sid? Thank you, man.
So for anyone that doesn't know what that means, can you give us a little background about what that calorie deficit mindset or the whole concept behind that is?
Yeah, basically there's a lot of myths and fallacies when it comes to fat loss, right? And I think one of the easiest ways to explain it is some people say never eat carbs because carbs are going to make you fat. Other people say never eat fat because fat makes you fat. Other people say don't eat fruit because sugar makes you fat. And then other people say, well, you know what? You want to make sure that you're not eating too little because eating too little somehow makes you fat because of starvation mode. And then, so, I mean, for me, it's like, all right, well, I guess the best scenario is, well, you can't eat carbs, can't eat fat, protein's going to kill you, and then you shouldn't eat too little. So what the fuck? Like, we just shouldn't eat anything at all, right? And if you really look at each of these types of people who are demonizing these different types of foods, they usually have something to sell you. They usually have like, well, my program is you can just buy it for one low price of $7,000 and it's just a low carb program. Or my program is also low price of $7,000. It's a low fat program. And for me, it's like, listen, here's the deal. It's just moderation. It's just, if you're eating too many calories, you're going to get fat. If you're eating fewer calories, then you're going to lose fat. That's just how it works. Now, there are different ways we can optimize fat loss. But if you want to lose fat, you have to be eating fewer calories, period. End of story.
Yeah, see, I love that because I think that's why a lot of people feel like they're overcomplicating the entire nutrition side of things, right? Like there's so many different people giving so much information. And to your point about people always trying to sell you something, it's not necessarily genuine information. So I feel like what you're saying and what you preach is just this kind of the science behind it. It's like, hey, eat less, lose weight.
That's literally it. And I think the biggest thing to emphasize here is if you want to do a low carb diet, cool, I support you. If you want to do a high carb diet, cool, I support you. If you want to do keto, awesome. You want to do Weight Watchers, amazing. You want to do South Beach, whatever. I don't care. Do whatever works for you. Just understand the science of why it works. It's not because some foods are inherently good or inherently bad or inherently fattening or inherently fat burning. It's just, if you're eating too many calories, you're going to gain fat, period, end of story. And if you're eating fewer calories, then you're going to burn fat. Obviously, some foods are more nutrient dense and have fewer calories, so they make it easier to lose fat. And other foods are higher calorie, less nutrient dense, so they make it more difficult if they make up the preponderance of your diet. But as long as you're eating fewer calories in total, you're good.
So how has your diet changed around now? Like, do you find yourself eating a lot less because you are stuck inside?
Personally, no. I mean, my goals right now are not physique related. So I'm not in a phase of my training career or my physique career in which I'm like, all right, I need to be super focused. I'm much more relaxed. I'm pretty relaxed right now. So I'm probably eating around the same, maybe even a little bit more just because I'm around the house more and there's like some cookies or whatever my girlfriend's cooking and there's like pie around
right there.
Yeah.
So maybe even a little bit more than usual, but I'm not worried about it because I think that the biggest benefit is I know exactly what to do once things go back to normal.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it too, is like, as long as you know where you're at and you know your lane, you know what you have to do. I just think from other experiences that I've had, you know, like going back to overcomplicating it. Like I'm in a situation where I'm trying to like gain a little weight, but I always get to a point where I eat and then I start like see my body change and then I start to eat less. And so personally, that's a big struggle with me. So like I'll sit there and I'll eat like a full steak. I'll be like, oh, it was so good. And then I'll look in the mirror like 2 days later. I'm like, fuck, why did I just do that?
I made a post on that in like 2012 or 2013. And I called it like I did it more based around strength and building muscle, but it goes hand in hand. A lot of times what people will do is they'll be like, all right, cool. I want to like lose fat. So they'll go into a fat loss phase, right? And they'll reduce their calories. Then the first week they'll be like, oh, great, it's working. I'm losing weight. Then the second week, maybe their strength goes down a little bit. They start to feel smaller, like their muscles are withering away. They'll be like, oh shit. Oh, now I got to increase my calories. So then they go to an increase in their calories. And the first week is great. They feel stronger, more energy. Then the second week, their pants start to fit tighter. Then they look in the mirror. They're like, oh my God, what's going on? They're like, I got to reduce my calories again. So it's this month-long cycle in which you go through both and you accomplish literally nothing. And you have to understand, if you want to lose fat, you have to be more consistent than a week or two at a time. And if you want to build muscle, you have to be more consistent than a week or two at a time. And you're going to go through phases in which, like, listen, maybe you're not going to be as strong as you want to be when you're losing fat, or maybe you're not going to be as lean as you want to be when you're building muscle. It's okay. It's about stacking up time on top of each other until 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you can look back and say, wow, that was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true too. Cause like I find on Instagram or social media in general, I think that's why a lot of people struggle. One reason why I really love your content is because you're just true. Right? Like I feel like you're, you know, without really knowing you personally, I feel like you're very good at putting out your true self and the good information, the bad side of you online. And I feel like a lot of yeah, absolutely. And I think an issue is like there's a lot of people out there that don't do that. Like they're only showing the good. They're only showing like the really good body pictures. So like someone like myself that struggles with consistency, or someone that is trying to lose weight and they're not getting the results, they go online and they see all these people that are just kind of like pushing different ideas at them, and then they get confused. So yeah, I just think that like what you're doing online is really good. I think it's like really good content. I love the trolling posts. It's one of my favorite. How did that whole wig thing come into play? Like, were you just like bored one day and threw the wig on?
So what happened? Well, that
Where did the wig come from?
I was about to say that. Sorry. It's basically, well, I'll say this. When I first started making content, I did it from the perspective of I had to be really serious. And I was like, I have to impress my colleagues and other professionals and make sure they know that I actually know what I'm talking about. So it actually deviated from my personality in terms of I'm not that serious of a guy. I'm super goofy. I like to make jokes. Growing up, I always did voices and impersonations and impressions of friends in different cultures. It's just what I did. I've done stand-up comedy for a while. Like I like doing that stuff. But when I was like, oh, I need to be professional now, everything changed. And I started, the more comfortable I got making content, the more comfortable I got doing voices and characters. And what happened with the wig is I was like, I'm tired of seeing all this celery juice nonsense. That celery juice is like healing people, and that like they're losing, like that celery juice burns fat, all this nonsense. If you like celery juice, by the way, amazing, drink celery juice. I think it tastes like goblin piss. Like, whatever. Like if you want it, have it. It's not
yeah,
bad
if you like it, whatever.
Yeah, but it's not healing you. It doesn't heal you. It's fucking celery juice. So I was going to do a video on celery juice, and basically I was like, I need to get a wig so I can make like a funny skit about it. And I called my assistant. I was like, where can I buy a wig in New York City? And she like looked up all these different places. And then I was actually walking outside, because in New York, there's shops every inch of the city. And we walked by a sex shop, and there were wigs in the window. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go in there. And it was literally right around the corner from my old apartment, and went in there, got it. And I literally just got a new one, because when we came to Boston instead of staying in New York when all this crazy shit happened. So my girlfriend ordered me a wig on Amazon because I forgot the wig. I forgot the wig at home. So I had to get a new one. So now I have two blonde ones. I need to get a brunette one, and I have a bunch of different characters at this point, but that's how it all started.
Yeah, you got to diversify the hair, get some like Goldilocks, get a little, braid or something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So for anyone that doesn't know you, like, tell us a little bit about your background in fitness and nutrition. Like, what did you go to school for? Things like that.
So I started with fitness and nutrition because of wrestling. So I grew up as a wrestler. I started wrestling when I was 8 years old. And I remember we started wrestling when I was 8. My brother was 10, and my mom wanted us to wrestle because my brother was getting picked on. And all I knew about wrestling was WWF, like hitting people with
Undertaker.
couches and whatnot. Exactly. That's what.
Yeah.
And when she said wrestling, I remember this. I'll always remember this. I said, "You want me to hit people with a chair?" And she was like, "No, you idiot!" Like Olympic style.
I'm in.
and I didn't know what it meant, but I was obsessed with it. I fell in love with it. And so from 8 years old until 18 years old, that was my life. It was just wrestling. And I made varsity as a freshman. I beat a junior out for the varsity spot, but I had to cut a lot of weight. So I was cutting from 112 to 103 pounds every week. And I was good from a technique perspective. I've already been wrestling for a number of years. Endurance-wise, I was good because I was just obsessed with like doing endurance work for wrestling. But as a 13, 14-year-old kid going up against 17, 18-year-old kids, I wasn't very competitive strength-wise. So I ended up applying to a gym near me. I called them. I just randomly called. I looked up their number on Google and I was like, "Hey, could I intern for you? Could I like take the trash out? I'll clean the floors. Just let me learn how to get stronger." And they took me under their wing, and they were super supportive and very science-based. And from 14 years old until the end of high school, I worked there all year round. And like, that's how I got started in the industry. Then I went to college initially for exercise science, but I had just spent literally 4 years or 3.5 years working at a gym and coaching people real time, doing like getting way more
like
experience.
hands-on.
Just straight up coaching real people for all of high school. And by the time I got to college and I went into exercise science because I was told that's what you're supposed to do, I realized, number one, the teachers had no idea what the hell they were talking about. They had never actually coached anybody. They were taught something in a textbook from their teachers who had never actually coached anybody. Then they became a professor, and then they're teaching from the same textbook that hasn't been updated about stuff that doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but on the hierarchy of importance, it's not nearly as what's essential to need to know. Right. And what I mean by that is, what I learned from coaching people is like, yes, program design is important, anatomy and physiology is important, all this is important. But you could have the best program in the world, the best nutrition guidelines in the world. You could have everything the best. But if someone doesn't follow it, then it means literally nothing. Right. And so I ended up switching from exercise science to behavioral psychology. And so basically, because I wanted to learn, why are people making the decisions they're making? The reality is everybody knows they should eat healthier. Everyone generally knows how to eat healthier and more fruits and vegetables. Everyone knows they should exercise more. Everyone knows generally walk more, run more, do some push-ups. At the very least, go to the gym, get on a treadmill, whatever. Why aren't people making the decisions they know they should be making and they even want to be making? Why aren't they doing it? And so I really dove deep into the behavioral psychology. It was probably the best decision I ever made in regard to my career. And I think it's one of the reasons my content stands out among other coaches is because I don't just talk about the science of exercise physiology and kinesiology. I actually talk about what's going on up here and how you can practically change it to make the improvements that you want.
So what are some of those things that go on in your head that like stop people from doing the things that they know they should be doing?
Man, that could fill a library.
Let's go with like two of them. Yeah, I know there's like tons of things that people do, like excuses with time and stuff like that.
Or maybe what's like the biggest ones you see with your clients?
I'll talk about the biggest one across all populations, across all people, regardless of language, regardless of culture, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. And this isn't just for fitness. This is for literally everything in life. And it's the most underused term in fitness. I know very few coaches who actually know it. Most who don't know it do know it, learned it from me. And it's one of the things I'm really trying to bring like to the forefront, because most coaches don't even know this exists. And it's the single biggest reason why anybody doesn't succeed or even often try to succeed. And the term is called self-efficacy. And basically, if you want to look into the research behind it, the main researcher who really digs into it, his name is Alfred Bandura. He has tremendous research on it. And the best way to explain it is it's similar to confidence. It's not the same, but it's very similar to confidence. And basically, self-efficacy is your belief in your ability to succeed at a given task. And the example I often use here is, if I told you today that if you spent $10,000 on lottery tickets, you were 99% likely to win $1 million, then you would immediately, even if you didn't have $10,000 in the bank, even if you had to go into debt in order to do it, you would find a way to get $10,000.
Yeah, you would figure it out.
You'd figure it out. You would do it because 99%. Yeah, of course I'll do that. Absolutely. That's free money. It's free $1 million. Pay back everybody. On the other hand, if I told you that if you spent $10,000, screw that. If I told you if you spend $1,000 on a lottery ticket today and you had a 10% chance of winning the Mega Millions, probably wouldn't do it. It's like, well, it's good, but it's not that good enough to really drop down $1,000. Just not worth it for you right now. What happens is when you believe that you're going to succeed, your actions line up with it. When you believe that it's going to work out for you, then you're going to put in the effort in order to make it happen. Most people don't actually believe they can succeed. And oftentimes most people have tried every diet, or they think, and this is important, they think they've tried every diet, they think they've tried every program, they think they've tried everything. And so after years and years and years of trial and error, it doesn't work. It's like, well, this just isn't going to work for me. And we see this all the time. It's my age, it's my gender, it's my metabolism, it's this, it's just, I've tried it all and it doesn't work for me. It's like, we have to understand the underlying reasons for why people aren't actually trying. And oftentimes it stems from a lack of belief in their ability to succeed in the first place. And once you can build their belief in their self-efficacy up enough, just a little bit, once you can do that, their consistency improves. And what happens if they're more consistent? Then they see results. When they see results, then they get more motivated, they take more action. Now they start to believe they can actually succeed, and you see that sort of just pile on each other. But if you're just trying to attack exercise or nutrition or fitness from a physiology standpoint, you're going to miss out on the vast majority of people. Because the people who will succeed purely based on a physiology perspective, they would have succeeded no matter what. They would have done it no matter what. They would have worked hard no matter what. And that's a very small percentage of people. The vast majority of people who really need deeper help are the people who need you to show them how they can succeed and show them how to believe in themselves. And once you build that base up, then it doesn't matter. Like, they'll do it. It's just you need to build that up first.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like you're combining like long-term goals with short-term goals. Short-term goals being like the little stairs leading up to your long-term goal, because like those short-term little goals are essentially like ways to help you believe in yourself. Like little goals that you can achieve, whether it's like, okay, I'm not going to eat, chips for a week. Like that's a goal. Oh, I did it. I can keep doing it. And so you're just building on top of it and building that base layer, you're saying, right?
That's one really good example. That's one really good way. Is like, it's not just about the little goals though. It's showing them to recognize that they've achieved a goal. Yeah. A lot of people don't even know that they've done it. And there's many ways to do this. One of the best ways that I would do in-person training, I'll never forget when I like figured this one out. Do you know what tonnage is? Like when you calculate the total tonnage of a workout? No. So tonnage is basically when you calculate the total number of sets by the total number of reps by the weight that you're using, right? Okay. So, and this is a legitimate marker, and high-level weightlifters will use this in order to track their training volume over a period of time. They can see how much total weight they're lifting for how many sets, for how many reps, and it can help moderate how intense they're going and help predict when they might be overtraining as well. And most coaches, they would only use this with high-level Olympic weightlifters, and it's really, from a practical perspective, really only useful for them. But what I realized is a lot of people, if you told someone, you could tell someone you deadlifted 500 pounds or you could tell someone you deadlifted 1,000 pounds. They don't know the fucking difference. Right. They don't, of course. They have zero perspective. It's like, wow, 500 pounds, wow, 1,000 pounds, same thing. They don't care. They don't know the difference. So when I had people coming in to me in person, one of the things I would do is I'd say, I bet today you're going to lift 100 pounds. And they'd be like, no. There's no way I can lift 100 pounds. Like, no, I guarantee you're going to lift 100 pounds. And it's oftentimes a woman in her 30s, in her 40s, maybe in her 50s. She thinks she can lift maybe 10. because she's been watching fucking Tracy Anderson or whatever it is. Right. And so then I don't tell her how much she's lifting. We're just doing different things. I'm like, cool, try this. Cool. Awesome. We'll do this. And then I'll be like, do you know how much you just lifted? She'll be like, what? I'll be like, you just lifted 110 pounds. She'll be like, shut up. And they'll cry, literally on the spot, cry. And it's like, it was an easy lift. It wasn't that difficult, but there was zero perspective. And I can show them how to recognize these little achievements along the way. It's not just about setting them, but making sure they recognize them. And oftentimes we're much harder on ourselves than we are to other people. Like, we're usually much nicer to our best friend. We're usually much nicer to our worst enemy than we are to ourselves. Absolutely. And teaching people how to address that, be aware of it, and then find those little things is infinitely important.
So do you think that it's emotional for them because it's like at that moment you're actually breaking a thought pattern, like, so the level of self-efficacy that they have may actually have shifted in that moment, and that's why it's so emotional for them?
Absolutely. I mean, most people, we've all heard the phrase, like, you're stronger than you think. And it's true. Like, we are stronger than we think. I think in that moment, you have objectively proven to them. Like, it's no ambiguity. It's not just their friend being like, oh, you're stronger than you think, honey. It's like, no, you just fucking lifted 110 pounds. It says right on the kettlebell. It's 110 pounds. It's not fake. You just lifted that shit up. And for their whole life, they thought they were weak. They were told they were weak. They felt weak. And now objectively staring them in the face is proof that they're not weak. It's very overwhelming. And it's a massive step for people to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like visualize, like it's adding a visual element to their goals. Like, there are a lot of people that don't goal set and they don't kind of write things down. So being able to kind of visually prove to them that they can do something, it's like an awesome approach, because they're like, before you even said any of that to me, personally, I've never really experienced it, but it makes complete sense of why people should look at it that way or approach it that way.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just one of many, 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 many ways. But this is something that no one talks about. Like, no one really, most people talk about, like, well, make sure, you can't eat carbs because it spikes insulin, and insulin's a storage hormone. It's like, you're a fucking idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. None of that translates when you're actually on the training floor. Well, it translates, it's like connection and like understanding somebody's psychosis when they walk in. Like, it's if you're capable of actually like looking at them and like already know what kind of state of mind they're in, and as a coach, what can I do to shift them? You know?
Yes, 100%.
I also think, to that point, it's like people are just so used to people telling them not to do something, right? Like, you're not able to eat carbs, you're not able to do this, and instead your approach is forward thinking. You're like, you can do this. Let me prove it to you. And
exactly right.
That's what we need more of. How do we get that out there?
Just watch Jordan's videos.
Yeah.
Jordan, was there somebody that maybe like I mean, you referenced somebody who wrote articles about the self-efficacy, but has that shown up in your life where somebody else has kind of created the guiding light for you, or like that has kind of helped your belief system and your self-efficacy?
Man, I mean, I think my mom did a really wonderful job of that. Like, she's always, my mom's very interesting. It's funny. My girlfriend, she doesn't really know how to approach it sometimes, because my mom and I get in huge debates. My mom and I have basically polar opposite political views, like completely polar opposite, and oftentimes societal views as well. So we debate really, really hard. But at the end of the debate, after like really like intense debates, like, love you so much, like, love you so much, like so much appreciation for each other. And my mom, like, especially growing up, she never would accept just the status quo. And actually, to give you an example, I told you how I applied to the gym. What I didn't tell you is that the first gym I applied to when I was in high school actually denied me. They said, we don't want a high school kid walking around. So I remember I got denied from that gym, and I was super upset about it. And I was really ashamed. I like took it on myself. I was like, oh, like, I'm not good enough. I took it as my issue. And I remember I walked through the door, and she was like, did you get it? And I was like, no. And I was just like walking away, just head down, tail between my legs. And she was like, what next? And I was like, what do you mean what's next? Like, nothing. I didn't get it. She was like, you're not going to apply to another gym? And I, like, she didn't give me a second to dwell. She didn't give me an opportunity to think I'm not good enough. She didn't give me, it was no like, oh no, you're okay. It was like, keep going, keep trying. This is the one of many. And I think it's one of the best things that she did. And I think that's a huge aspect of self-efficacy, is knowing you can always keep trying. Like knowing that one failure is not the end. A lot of people, and this, you see this with food, right? A lot of people, they'll have one bad food on Friday night. They'll go out, they'll have pizza and beers, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden they're like, I fucked up. And well, might as well just
weekends
let the
a
whole
wash.
weekend go. It's like, no, it's one fucking meal. Like get back on track, keep going. And I think she relentlessly did that. There were so many times I remember, like, I was doing wrestling and I was doing soccer, and I felt like soccer was getting in the way of my wrestling in high school. But I had already started the season my sophomore year, and I was doing really well. And I was like, I think I want to quit and I want to go to wrestling full time. I go to wrestling camps. She was like, you gave them your word. Like you can't quit in the middle of the season. And it was, I think, a lot of this like very harsh, very rigid parenting that forced me to take right action on a very consistent basis that helped build up my self-efficacy. I really think that's probably been the most helpful to me over the years.
That's great.
Such an interesting topic, because I feel like there's, so many people, right, that hit a small wall and don't realize that there was like that small wall is actually a step that they could have just taken to another step, but in reality, their self-efficacy is stuck at that first step, wherever they got stopped at, whether it was like at a job or with a girlfriend, or like, talking to somebody that you're interested in. And then all of a sudden that little step also becomes a story in the back of the head, is like that, oh, I can't apply for these kind of things. I can't talk to this kind of girl. I can't eat this way. I can't, like, all these can'ts start building up as these stories. And then it's the thing that's actually stopping them from, moving forward in any way.
That's exactly right. That is 100% exactly right. I remember, I've had to learn this, but it's really interesting to see. It's actually most people's default. Most people's default is to stop. Very few people actually keep going. And that's why I think it's so important to build people's self-efficacy up, and also teach them how to build their own self-efficacy up. It's not just to do it for them, but teach them how to do it on their own.
Yep.
And one example is my videographer, Rico, when he first started working with me about 1.5 years ago now. And he's amazing. He's absolutely incredible. And when we first started working together, my Instagram was doing well. My YouTube was not. I did not have a big YouTube audience at all. And our main goal was to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which we just hit recently.
Awesome. Congrats.
But thank you. When we first started, we were not getting a lot of views on YouTube, and he was super demoralized. Like, he was really upset about it, because he thought it was just going to go like crazy. And he put a ton of work and ton of time into every video. And I remember when it would be like very few, the first few times, he was like, what's going on? And he thought it was his fault. He thought he wasn't good enough. And I was like, bro, it's going to be like this for a long time. You're going to put a lot of time and effort into these videos. They're going to be amazing videos, and very few people are going to see them. Like maybe 10 will see them. And then over 6 months, over a year, over 3 years, then people will start to see them. And it was one of those things where it's like, once you have realistic expectations and continue to take right action, all of a sudden things start to fall into place. You just can't base your success on any single day or metric, one individual metric. It has to be over a long period of time.
That's the same thing I tell, like, so I'm also a videographer, and that's a lot of things that I tell my people that I work with, right? It's like, many people that create content, right? Like yourself included, you've been doing content for what, over 10 years now. And like you found
July of 2011.
Yeah. And like, I think to me, it's the consistency of putting content out, good content, obviously. But like, if you're putting out content consistently, for years and years and years, that's when you start to see success. And so like, I tell all my clients, I'm like, we can sit there and create one video for you, but that one video isn't going to have the results that you're looking for.
That's right.
It's like, it's an entire investment in creating content online. And
100% accurate.
It's very hard to like convince people of that. It's like you said, I think it's it's going to
show them this recording when it's all done. Show them this clip of me saying I've been doing it since July of 2011 and it didn't take off until like 2016. So, and I was posting every single day from July of 2011 until now, every single day. And like, it didn't start to really take off until 2016. So they should be fucking patient.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm going to show them. There was something I was just thinking of, is, you know, obviously for you, it was great. You had your mother to be able to be there for you to like help you through those challenging moments where you were kind of doubting yourself. But there are a lot of people, especially as we get older, that don't have that person to be, and they're stuck with their own thoughts and their own kind of struggles. So what are some things that you think we can do or to help people kind of start to build some more positive thinking?
Man, that's a wonderful question. And I would, you know, it's one of the more common answers always like good environment. And it's cliche, but it's actually really true. Now, I think we live in an amazing time now more than ever in which you can create your own environment online. Like you can surround yourself with like-minded people online. Now, it doesn't mean you can necessarily get up and move your home based on whether it's financial issues or whatever it is. If you can get up and move your home and find new people, go for it. If you can't, there's communities online of like-minded people. It doesn't mean you're going to find them like that. It does mean, and here's the trick, it does mean you're going to have to put yourself out there. It does mean you're going to have to take time and effort to, number one, find them, and number two, try and connect with them. And it does mean that maybe you'll find 10 different communities. And the first 10 that you find, you put yourself out there, you make yourself vulnerable, and you don't connect with anyone, or you don't like them, or they're also bad environments. But the 11th one that you find, that's the one where you finally connect with people. And I think really what has to be said here, remember with the lottery example, is the only reason you took action in the first place to raise the $10,000, to go and to get the $10,000, to take out a second mortgage to get the $10,000, whatever it is. The only reason you took those serious actions to get that money is because you knew you would succeed. But it wasn't the knowing that you would succeed. It was the actions that took you there. It was the actions, the crazy actions of getting that money that would then lead you to succeed in the long run. So you have to remember the way to get in one of those environments, the way to build these thoughts is through action. It is the only way. And it's a catch-22, right? Because people, well, I'm just not motivated to take action. It's like, you're fucking never going to be motivated to take action. Maybe sometimes. But as soon as you hit that first roadblock, if you're relying on motivation, then you're done. You have to know you'll take action regardless of whether or not you're motivated, and especially when you're not motivated, because motivation works. I call it Dumbledore's loop, right? So most people think that motivation, you get motivated, then you take action, then you get results, and then you get more motivated. That's not how it works. First, you take action even when you're not motivated. Then you get results. Then from those results, you get more motivated, you take more action. You have to know this. You have to know that action comes first. It is the peak of the pyramid, because without action, nothing happens.
Yeah, that's great. I was just thinking about something else too, and I just fucking lost it.
Oh, sorry. But no, it's a good conversation, because we're always talking about like how like it's not going to happen unless there's an action piece. I think that like it translates to beyond fitness. It translates to relationships. It translates to food, money, wealth, whatever. Like there's so many people that talk about what they want, and those same people that are talking about what they want for like a year, right? And it's and like, what have you done? Like, what have you done to get to what you want? And have you even figured out if that's what you want? You wouldn't even know if you didn't take any action. You have to like make a move somewhere.
Always.
Well, I think also when it comes to like health and fitness, people want the results, but they don't want to put in the time and effort to get the results. They just want to cut corners, which is why there's so many of these like diet fads and stuff like that out there. And I think that like if people just start enjoying the process, right? Like for me, I know that there's hundreds, thousands of different style workouts you can do, right? Like you can box, you can cycle, you can, do CrossFit, whatever you want. But generally speaking, from like probably a majority of a standpoint, everyone thinks that you just have to go to a traditional gym is like where you start out, right? Like, oh, I'm not comfortable enough to do CrossFit yet. It's too hard. Or, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga to start. You know, like I feel like if people just were more experimental in their fitness and were able to try out more things, they would find something along the way to be able to enjoy that. And then they would get involved in the community, and then they would probably find friends that are more healthy. And like that entire ecosystem, especially like I'm a big CrossFitter. So, you know, I got involved there, and like I met all my friends. So now all my friends are healthy. We hang out. Like we're not just like doing shit that doesn't help benefit our health for the long run. And I feel like people just got to like get out of their comfort zone a little bit and really take the, like you said, take action on finding something that you really enjoy.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny. My like blood starts to boil when I think about people being like, oh, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga yet. Or like, oh, I'm not strong enough to do CrossFit yet. Or like, I'm not fast enough to like run yet. Whatever it is. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you think you go to yoga for? You go to yoga to get more flexible. What do you mean you're not flexible enough? You go there to get better. What do you think you go to CrossFit for? What do you think you go to, like, you take running classes? Like, they're based on what?
I know.
Like, I'm not X enough yet. Based on what? Whose standard are you basing that off of? Give me an actual objective scientific standard that you think you're not good enough yet. You can't, they don't have one. It doesn't exist. It's you protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
And you trying to protect yourself, you're hurting yourself. Because you're not actually protecting yourself. You're protecting your ego. You're protecting your insecurities. And you're not allowing yourself to get better or to grow. Because you're putting yourself in this case of, well, I'm not good enough yet. Cool. So what the fuck are you going to do in the meantime? Stay not good enough. It's like, go. I mean, it's so funny. I wrestled my whole life. I got into jiu-jitsu not too long ago. And I go to literally the best jiu-jitsu school in the world. It's under John Danaher. It's called the Blue Basement at Renzo Gracie Academy in New York. They have Gordon Ryan. They have Gary Tony. They have literally the best jiu-jitsu fighters in the world there. George St. Pierre goes there. And every day I would go, not now, but because of all the coronavirus stuff, but like every day I go at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And every day I'm scared out of my fucking mind. And even though that I wrestled for 10 years and I have a background in it, I suck. Like I am awful. Every day I go there, I know for a fact I'm going to get choked out.
Get your ass
I know
kicked.
I'm going to be I'm going to get my ass whooped.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying everybody has to do jujitsu. I think everyone would be better if they did do jujitsu, to be honest. I think it built up a tremendous amount of mental strength and resiliency, but that's aside from the point. The point is, every day I start off my day by doing something that scares the living shit out of me. And it just so happens that I'm actually fighting to try and get someone away from choking me. As I start my day that way. And when you start your day with something that petrifies you, and you start your day literally fighting for your life, then every other problem you have the rest of your day seems relatively insignificant. And trying to overcome something every single day, doing something difficult every day becomes a habit. You either do it or you don't. And the more regular you get at doing something that scares the shit out of you, the better you'll get at doing it.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he says the same thing about jiu-jitsu. Like, actually, any mixed martial art, right? Like, it's an art. It's a never-ending journey, right? You can get your ass kicked by anyone that you get on the mat with. And, like, you know, for him, he's like, it makes me a calmer person because, like, A, I know how to defend myself. So if I do get into a situation out on the streets, like, I know I don't have to be afraid of anyone kind of confronting me. And two, it's like that same thing that you just said. It's like you're always getting better. You're always improving yourself. You're putting yourself in a dangerous situation and learning how to adjust. And the rest of the day is great.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
This idea of doing something difficult every single day keeps showing up in a lot of our podcasts, actually, which is really interesting because we talk about mentality and, you know, being strong. And I think that what I'm seeing is the ties that they're connected. Like there's something about like doing something difficult, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the physical difficult. It may be like having a difficult conversation or, you know, making the right choice for your nutrition, even though it tastes bad to you. Or you don't, or it's not as yummy, like, or going to bed early, even though you would rather be on Instagram, like, and you just because you know it's for the better of you, or it's hard to do for you. Like all of these things change, although they're actions and they're physical, they're actually a mental shift that actually happens with time. And I think that's missing for a lot of people.
I think that's the big issue now with like the way that we're bringing up younger adults, right? It's like we're protecting them from all the dangerous things in life, not only in life physically, but like you said, like if a kid is struggling with a bully or something like that, generally they'll just like remove them from the situation instead of like confronting them, bringing them together, talking it through. And I just see it a lot because I do work in a school district during the day. So I see a lot of things happening and I'm like, why would they do it that way? Like they're just going to they're making that kid weak. Like they're not helping him in any situation besides making him weaker. And when he gets out into the world, when he's in college and is confronted with the situation, like he's not going to be ready. He's going to run to the school to help them. Yeah. I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, it doesn't make sense to me at all.
I remember like when I was a kid, like I got into like a little bullying thing, and like my parents walked me back to the school and looked for the kid and made us talk, which was so awkward because when you're just a kid, you just like, you stare at each other because obviously there's a parent standing over, so the bully's not going to do anything. And I'm over here like, da da da. So we literally just stood there for 45 minutes until eventually the two of us started talking through. And I remember it was so difficult to do as a kid, right? This is like, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why? But the force of having to do something like that, I'm like, wow, that was easy. Now it's like whatever. But I think it's stuck in my head because it's like, it shifted my personality in that moment.
Absolutely. 100%. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with like, I know Roy, I'm not going to name this kid's name, but I have a friend, right, who was getting bullied at work. And, dude, it was like a 2-week span of them not talking or anything, right? It was super awkward. Like we're all together. And I was like, what are you doing? And then he kept like complaining to me. I'm like, look, you have to be the bigger man and like go up to that bully and be like, look, dude, we got to talk this out. I gave him that advice and I was like, and he was like, if you were my dad and you told me to go talk to the bully, you'd be the worst parent in the world. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about, dude? I was like, even though you're being bullied, it doesn't mean that you can control the situation by approaching that person and taking control of the situation or letting it hurt you inside. I'm like, what would you rather do? You're sitting here complaining to me every day. I'm tired of you complaining to me. Go approach your bully and fucking be the man. Like, take control of the situation.
And not to mention, like, it's so interesting. Let's say you go to the bully and the situation escalates to the worst case scenario in which you actually get in a fight. It's like, okay, you got in a fight.
Yeah, right.
That's it. Like, you got in a fight. That's the worst case scenario there. Like, you're done. Cool. Now it's over. And usually when people get in a fight, oftentimes like they're better friends for it afterwards. Oftentimes, especially when two dudes get in a fight, once it's over, there's more respect for each other. But it usually doesn't even escalate to that anyway. When you confront someone, oftentimes the bully is like super insecure about it. I remember one of my jobs in high school, I was a waiter at a restaurant, this Italian restaurant. I completely forgot about this. This just jogged my memory about it. And I was the youngest one there. And this like dude who was like 5-6 years older than me was just super obnoxious and picking on me all the time. Just like not being a good dude. And I remember I went up to him after a shift. I was like, dude, you don't have to like me, but if you're gonna like, I said, you don't have to like me, but if you don't like me, just don't say anything to me. And I'll never forget, immediate switch after that. Like he was like, I like you, like immediately. Just this craziest shift. Trying to ignore the problem never helps it. Ignoring it never helps it. It does, and again, sort of like you were saying, could be in relationships, could be business, could be fitness, health, whatever. Ignoring the problem never helps it.
Yep. And I mean, we can just bring that right back to anything, and going back to like a fitness and nutrition thing. Like if you're struggling eating healthy, by ignoring it and just doing the same thing over and over again, like you're ignoring the fact that you have a problem of unhealthy eating, or you have the problem of not exercising. Like approaching it and just going at it is the only way that you can achieve that success.
That's it.
And that's where I feel like a lot of social media influencers kind of go wrong, is that they focus on the things that they're really good at and like already killing it, or it's like natural to them, or it's easy for them, or like, you know, they're drinking their teas and they're putting on their waist trainers, and, you know, they're already naturally beautiful, so they're taking a shit ton of selfies. And I mean, Jordan, what I like about you is that you do share like what's going on. Like you share the truth. Like, so you're working on a weakness, or you're working on a gap. Like you're doing the 300 push-up challenge, but you also talking about like the reason I'm doing this is for the difficulty level, the mental shift. Like it's like the things we're sharing online are important. And I think that too many people get caught up in like, how great am I? How can I share that? Instead of being like, hey, this is where I feel like I actually need some work on, and this is how I'm going about it.
100%. And the ironic thing about that is when people are like, I need to share how great I am, they're usually very insecure about it. Right? Because no one is, unless you're a psychopath that's just walking around like, I am the greatest. Like we all have insecurities, every single one of us. And when you go on social media, if that's what you are putting out there, then that's when you get imposter syndrome. That's when you get really insecure, because you're putting out something that's not actually you.
You're just feeding it. A lot of times
people ask, it's just not accurate. And people ask me like, do I ever get imposter syndrome? I'm like, no, because I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. You get imposter syndrome when you feel like you don't belong there. And it's like, well, if you're putting out something that literally isn't accurate about your portrayal of yourself that's fictional, then yeah, you'll get imposter syndrome pretty quick.
Yeah. Talking about like this whole subject, I know you did this 300-day 300 push-ups a day challenge. Was that for the difficulty of it, or was there more to the story, or were you just like, I'm just gonna do fucking 300 push-ups a day?
Literally, I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do 300 push-ups a day. It was right when quarantine started, and I realized I wasn't gonna have a gym. And all I saw were people freaking out about like, I don't have a gym. This is going to be awful. I'm going to lose all my progress. And I was just like, fucking stop complaining. You know what? I'm going to do 300 push-ups a day. And it was I spoke about this the other day on Instagram. Every time I say I'm going to do a challenge, I always get kickback at the beginning. When I did the Big Mac challenge, when I did the Carnivore challenge, when I did 300 push-ups a day, there's always kickback. There's always reason why I shouldn't do it from some people.
Of course. That's
stupid. You're just going to hurt yourself, whatever. And every single time I do it, on the other end, they're like, wow, that was actually really cool to see. That was awesome. I learned a lot from it. And there was zero physique aspect of it for me. Like if you understand physiology on a very basic level, if you have a base level of strength built up, doing 300 push-ups a day, like that's not optimal for building muscle. Like that's realistically, for doing that for building muscle, you're an idiot. It doesn't make sense. The way that I split it up was purely to do something every day that I didn't want to do. Like I do not want to do 300 push-ups a day, especially not every day for 30 days in a row. That sounds terrible. And it really was not that fun. It was sometimes I procrastinated on it and I had to do it at 10 p.m. at night. Sometimes I was super sore and I didn't want to do it. But like I had to get it done. Like it was just, this is a non-negotiable. I'm getting it done. I recorded every single push-up. I have it all. We're making a whole YouTube video about it. But I think there's a lot to be said for actively going out of your way to do something you don't want to do on a daily basis, because it becomes a habit. And the more comfortable you get at it's like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I hate the saying, not because the saying is bad, but because people think they just say it when they want likes. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like, well, fucking how? Like, give me a legitimate, practical way to do it. Okay, cool. Do 300 push-ups a day. If you can't do one push-up, cool. Do like 10 hands elevated push-ups a day. You don't want to do push-ups? Do squats. Do you floss every day? No, fucking floss every day. Like, find something that you're not doing that you know you should, and fucking do it every day. It's simple, not easy.
That's very similar to, I listen to David Goggins, who says like sometimes he'll sit at the front door with his shoes on and he won't leave for like 30 minutes. He'll just sit there for 30 minutes, but he's like, I know that I'm going to go out there and run 100 miles, but it's just going to build up that like fucking thing of just going and doing it. And like, he has the same mindset where it's just like, I don't care when, how, where, or anything, I'm going to do it. So yeah, that just reminded me of that.
He's a beast, man. He's an absolute savage.
Yeah. So are you always working on some challenge? Like every month, are you doing something new? And like, do you plan that, or you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do this month?
I'm very odd with it. It's usually spur of the moment. And like, I'll just have a random idea and I'll text Rico, who's my videographer. I'll be like, dude, let's do this. And he'll be like, okay, when? I'll be like, tomorrow, let's start it tomorrow. And I'll put it on Instagram. We're starting this tomorrow. And then people get super excited about it. So it's one thing that we started doing is more challenges. And it started out just the Big Mac challenge was the first one that I did. And it had a much bigger impact than I anticipated. And it sort of, this is another aspect about making content, right? It's like, you never know what piece of content's going to change your life forever. You just never know. You never know who it's going to impact. You never know like what's going to come of it. And it took me from July of 2011 until September of 2019 to do my first public challenge. It's a long fucking time. And that was one of the biggest pieces of content I ever made. It changed many, many lives, hundreds of thousands of lives, and it changed my life. And because of that, now I'm doing more challenges. And it's a cool way for me to continue to educate people while actually showing them what it's like. Like, it's one thing to say, like I just did the carnivore diet, right? It's one thing to say, no, don't do the carnivore diet because like the research doesn't support it. It's another thing to actually do the carnivore diet and show them what happens so that they can see it firsthand. It's very different. It's a different form of teaching.
It's like a journalistic approach.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's exactly right.
It's like going undercover for a month.
That's a great, yeah, I love that. That's perfect.
Do you have like a favorite challenge?
I think so far my favorite was the Big Mac challenge. I think it was just my first, and it was, I think because it was so surprising about the impact it had, and we put so much work into that. The next one I'm going to do after the push-up YouTube one goes up is an alcohol challenge where I drink alcohol every day for 30 days and lose fat.
Oh man.
I think I need that one.
That's the response that people have been giving me. I have a feeling this one could contend with the Big Mac one. I'm not a big drinker. I literally didn't drink the entire year of 2019. My girlfriend and I did a year-long challenge. We didn't have one drink. And it even carried over into 2020 a little bit. So I'm not a huge drinker. I don't really like it. But you know, I have a glass of wine every now and again, maybe once every 2 weeks or something. So it's going to be interesting for me from that aspect. But I think it's actually going to help a lot of people, because I literally just got a DM about this before we got on the phone. Someone was like, hey, I'm starting a calorie deficit with my husband. Super excited, but he's already missing his beer. And I'm like, Jesus, like, let him have his beer. Like, not every day, and not like Dogfish had 90 minute that have like 500 calories.
And not 20 of them.
Like, exactly, like in moderation.
Right.
So hopefully every challenge, my goal is to teach people and really to teach people how to be better critical thinkers, to figure out what works best for them, and to realize that you don't have to eliminate everything from your life in order to achieve your goals. Because the reality is, if you have to eliminate everything you enjoy from your life in order to achieve a goal, then you won't achieve your goal, and you definitely won't be able to sustain your goal.
Love that. It's such a different approach. You know, it's like so many people out there need to start following that approach, because it's obviously like you said, it's like trial by error, and maybe one challenge, like you're like, no, that failed. That was horrible. But showing people, and that's why I love following you, is like you're showing everyone the good, the bad. And, you know, like the journalistic approach to it is kind of like really fun to consume as a consumer as well. And, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. I just love the organic rawness of it. So like whatever you're doing, I love it, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Do you, real quick, do you use that approach to keep yourself kind of like committed? You know, like if you're doing 300 push-ups a day and then you miss a day, like, do you feel like you're now committed more because you're presenting it to all your fans online?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so first and foremost, I didn't miss a day. I'm super proud about that.
That's great.
I didn't. There was a day where I almost skipped it. I was very close, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just have to tell them. And that's when I did it at like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay, I can't do this. And the sole reason I did that is because I have an audience that I want to make sure they see me sticking to it. Actually, same thing happened with the carnivore challenge. when I was doing the carnivore diet on day 7, this is in the final video, like it's a very big part of it. On day 7, I was like, I feel awful. I've had like 28 diarrheas in the last week. I like feel just terrible. You could see dark circles under my eyes. It was not good. And I was like, I think I'm going to stop tomorrow. I've already done a week. Like, it's okay. And I remember just being like, after I said that on Instagram, I was like, I can't stop. Like I told them I'm going to do 2 weeks. Like, I can't say I'm going to do one thing and then not do it. Once you break someone's trust, like, it's a dangerous road to go down. Not only someone else, but for yourself. When you break promises to yourself, that becomes a habit. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, now you've broken a promise to yourself and you've justified doing it over and over and over again. If you say you're going to do something, fucking see it through, not just for other people, but for yourself, because whatever you do, it's building a habit in either direction.
Roy, I cut you off before. Sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say.
No.
But
no, I mean, that's really good because like
yeah, I think that's like important for people to hear, because as a brand, I think that people don't really see themselves as like who I am as Roy Rosado. Like, what I say and what I do need to line up, and what we do as SWTY needs to line up, and also needs to, like, we need to take action behind it. So it's like knowing that your impact, so you're connected to very much that you have a community and you're connected to them, so their expectations of you should line up with what you say. But not only that, immediately the second that you let yourself down, you're actually letting all of them down.
That's right. 100%.
Well, not even that, but I think it's also, like you're talking about how, not doing something is a habit. You get used to it. And so now you're not only trying to tackle the idea of whatever you're going after, right? Like, you're not now only tackling the goal, but you're also breaking a habit. So you're just adding stress and you're adding all these hardships to whatever you're trying to do. So if anything, you're making it worse by not following through on whatever goal it is. And even if it's at the end of that, it's not working, then who cares? It didn't work. Then for the next time that that's not right.
What you just said is one of the most important things, is even if it doesn't work, cool. Yeah. One of my favorite strategies is to always ask, well, what's the worst case scenario? What is the worst thing that happens? Usually the worst thing that could happen doesn't actually happen. But once you face the worst case scenario, once you just understand it, you verbalize it, you're like, cool. So that's not even that bad. Like, okay, cool. Give it a fucking shot. Like, might as well. Because worst case scenario, I'm good. Like, why not? And the positive is so outrageous. Like, the best that can happen, you can't even comprehend.
Right. More people can take that on of like, seeing, like, I wonder what would happen if I did this for 30 days and actually execute doing it for 30 days. Because like you said, I can read every blog, I can watch every YouTube video, I can see how it occurs for you, whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for me. And I don't know if it's going to work for me if I do it for a day or 2 or 3 days, or I give up on day 7. Like, I need to see if I can try something, commit to it, and then see if it's actually going to impact me in a positive or negative way. And then I'm in the state of, okay, I can make a decision now. Do I care to continue this, keep this part of my life, or do I care to just let it go? And I think most people are just stuck in what they normally do and don't have I don't know what it is. I guess whatever it's missing is just this ability to use themselves as the research.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, it's been an hour. I know you're a busy guy, so I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I just want to finish up this, because we usually just ask the question at the end of every podcast. If you had like 3 practical tips that someone should take today to change their life for the better, for every day, like, what would 3 tips be that you would offer someone?
I would say do something difficult every single day. And that maybe that's flossing. Like, I used to suck with flossing until I was like, why am I being such a bitch about this? Just fucking floss. Like, so floss every day. I would say eat one big salad every day. Every day have a salad. There's no reason not to. And I would say sweat every day. I don't care if it's jumping jacks. I don't care if it's push-ups. I don't care if it's doing mobility exercises that after 2 minutes make you sweat. Just do something difficult every day, floss every day, and sweat every day. And you're good.
Awesome, man. Love that. Well, hey, Jordan, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Like I said, huge fan, love your content. Keep doing it. You're killing it. Looking forward to like all your new challenges and keep making me laugh, man.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. This was great. Have a wonderful day, all right?
Yeah, you too, man. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. You too.
See you.
Taking your blood will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter.
If you're going to get a new result, you're going to have to get new action.
You gotta get out there and be like, oh, this hurts. This hurts real fucking bad. I'm saying, start to learn the mind is powerful. It's powerful, man.
Sweat collective.